You likely carry a mental projection of her new existence, a vision of unburdened liberation, a woman finally free to pursue her passions. You imagine her thriving, unencumbered by the structures you once provided. Understand this: freedom is a concept, not a biological drive. A year post-separation, the biological imperative has simply recalibrated. Her focus shifts, not on abstract self-discovery, but on resource reacquisition and validation. The initial script she constructed for herself and for you, the narrative of her escape, her newfound autonomy, has now collided with objective reality. The market demands a return. Her perceived sexual market value, initially buoyed by the novelty of independence, faces a market correction. This is not an emotional journey. This is a cold, biological process of market adjustment, where her position in the social and sexual hierarchy is being reevaluated. The initial surge of attention and validation may have stabilized or receded. The calculus of attraction and provision remains constant. She is assessing her new landscape, calibrating her expectations against the available options, and navigating the biological competition for status and resources. The initial euphoria, the declared liberation, it's a fleeting neurochemical cocktail, a temporary anesthetic. Once the immediate emotional debt is processed, a deeper, more primal mechanism activates. This is where the biological clock dictates the next phase of the script. Understand this: her primary directive shifts with precision to a rapid reassessment of her sexual market value. This is not about emotional recovery, not in the way you might perceive it. It is a cold, calculated optimization for a new resource provider. Her internal algorithms are running a fresh inventory check. What is her current worth in the biological marketplace? Where does she stand in the reproductive hierarchy now that her previous contract has been terminated? She will begin to test the market. This isn't a search for genuine connection, it's a data-gathering exercise. She will engage, often superficially, with men who represent a perceived upgrade. Men who are better, more exciting, or possess higher social proof. This isn't necessarily about finding a permanent partner immediately. It's about inflation. An attempt to artificially boost her perceived value, to create a higher demand for her biological contract. Observe the patterns: a sudden increase in social media activity, new profiles, novel experiences broadcast for public consumption. This high-frequency search for external validation is critical to her process. Each like, each new interaction serves as a data point, confirming her market viability. This validation is often mistaken by both herself and those observing as true emotional engagement. It is not. It is a series of transactions designed to calibrate her new position. She is attempting to secure a superior biological contract. This phase is about establishing her new place in the hierarchy, proving her continued relevance and desirability. It's a competitive landscape, and she is strategically positioning herself for the optimal outcome. She is not seeking solace, she is seeking leverage. Her actions are dictated by an ancient code designed for resource acquisition and reproductive advantage. Do not confuse this strategic maneuvering with genuine emotional distress or a quest for personal growth. This is the re-entry protocol, a cold biological imperative. A year has passed. The immediate rush of novelty, the chemical high of perceived freedom, has begun its inevitable decline. You understand this mechanism. Any stimulant, regardless of its initial potency, delivers diminishing returns. For her, the euphoria that powered her initial choices is now a less reliable fuel source. Her biological imperative for resource security, which may have been temporarily overshadowed by the pursuit of new experiences and validation, is now reasserting itself. The true cost of her new freedom begins to crystallize, not as an abstract concept, but as a tangible, daily reality. The initial pool of exciting prospects she encountered post-divorce has largely evaporated. Those individuals, often driven by low commitment seeking or the thrill of novelty, were not long-term investments. The objective reality of the sexual market is a brutal force, quickly filtering out options that lack sustained value. What remains are the diminishing returns of choice. Consider the resource drain. Financial independence, the relentless demands of child-rearing, and the emotional labor required to maintain multiple, often shallow connections. This is not the curated highlight reel she projects. Each interaction, each dependency extracts a cost. Her perception of her own value, which was likely inflated by initial validation and the narrative of liberation, now confronts the objective truth of her actual sexual market value. This value does not magically increase post-divorce. It is a function of age, physical condition, fertility, and freedom from encumbrance. These biological and economic factors are immutable. This period often precipitates a biological downshift in her mate selection. The pursuit of transient excitement yields to a more pragmatic, financially stable calculus: security over novelty. This is the script. The initial surge of perceived freedom, the pursuit of novel experiences, these are often short-lived. The market, devoid of sentiment, provides objective data. Her new market position, post-divorce, is not a static construct. It is a dynamic index, influenced by age, children, and past relationship history. This data forces a recalibration. The ambition for peak excitement, for the alpha partner with unlimited resources and zero commitment, often yields to a more pragmatic assessment. Survival dictates strategy. Resource acquisition becomes the dominant directive. She begins to pivot. The focus shifts from fleeting thrill to reliable resource streams. This manifests as a reevaluation of potential partners. Less thrilling, perhaps, but demonstrably stable. A man who offers security, predictability, or a clear pathway to resource consolidation. This is not romance. It is an economic transaction, a biological imperative to secure future comfort. And this is where you re-enter her calculus. If, during this period, your value trajectory has demonstrably increased, if your financial position has solidified, your physical form has improved, your emotional sovereignty is evident, you become a data point in her revised assessment. Not as a conduit for renewed intimacy, but as a known quantity, a proven resource, a fallback option, a predictable variable in a chaotic market. She is not seeking emotional reconnection, she is assessing the cost-benefit analysis of a familiar resource drain against the unknown variables of new biological competition. Understand this clearly. This is a strategic move, devoid of the sentiment she may project. It is a cold, biological assessment of available options, driven by self-interest and the imperative for stability. Her post-divorce trajectory is a distinct biological script, driven by an inherent compulsion to optimize for perceived security and genetic propagation. This is a predictable, often observable pattern of behavior. However, your focus cannot linger on that external variable. Your survival, your dominance, is dictated by your response to your own reality. Dwelling on her choices, her new alliances, her perceived happiness constitutes a critical resource drain. Emotional energy, cognitive bandwidth, time, these are finite assets. You're in a state of biological competition for resources and position. Can you afford to deplete your stores monitoring a non-controllable entity? We dissect the mechanics of her post-separation reality not to invite obsession, but to understand the patterns. To recognize the scripts. Once understood, disengage. The objective is clarity, not entanglement. Your resurgence is predicated on a single variable, your control over your own system. Your emotional sovereignty. This means concentrating your limited resources on your own value creation, your physical reconstruction, your financial recalibration, your strategic ascent. Discipline is the only countermeasure to the chaos you have endured. It is the architect's tool for rebuilding. Every unit of energy spent on resentment or speculation about her life is a unit stolen from your own rebuild. Her path is irrelevant to your engineering. Your discipline, your relentless pursuit of higher value, is the only metric that matters. Self-pity is for the weak. Control is for the architect.